All right, guys, what's going on? Levi Trumbull reporting here, and welcome to the third and final segment as it relates to our little miniature series in response to the breaking news that came this past week in a historically unprecedented situation where five police officers in the state of Maryland, that's right, five police officers, were all indicted by the Baltimore City State Attorney's Office. So, if you have been watching this channel, then you know that we are going to do today the exact same thing that we have done with the other two incidents that we have already brought you in part one and part two. If you've been watching, then you know at this point there are three incidents that stem five indictments. You know that it is three Baltimore County police officers that were indicted, and then two police officers from the city. So those are different jurisdictions between county and city. Three were county, two were city. You have seen us bring you the indictments of Corporal Zachary Small and Officer Jacob Ruse and Justin Graham Moore. That was what we covered in part one. The fact that Corporal Small was indicted for what they say is a first degree assault, a second degree assault, as it relates to a September 2023 incident where a suspect that they were apprehending was beat up pretty good. He was pepper sprayed, drug on the ground, and dragged by his hair. And they say that it amounts to complete negligence and criminal negligence and excessive use of force by this officer. And then the other two officer, of course, that being Officer Jacob Ruse and Justin Graham Moore, they were indicted for essentially aiding and abetting and allowing, standing by idly while that police officer did those things. So we brought you that case one in part one. If you haven't seen that, check that out. And then you also know that we brought you the second case, which was Officer Alexia Davis. She was the 26-year-old Baltimore City police officer who was indicted for what they allege is negligent driving stemming from an incident where she crashed her patrol vehicle into a motorcyclist. And the reporting that we have suggests that that individual who was struck by this negligent driving, this allegedly negligent driving police officer in this patrol vehicle, because of that collision, not only was this person injured, but their leg had to be amputated. That's right. They had to have a leg amputation. That is what our reporting says about Officer Alexia Davis's indictment, her situation. We brought you that in part two. Today we wrap it up with case three, part three, which deals with Detective June Hall of the Baltimore City Police Department. She is accused essentially of theft. Stealing from the police department, the taxpayers. And we're going to get into it. We're going to bring you the indictment, and we're going to bring you all of the publicly available information that I have before me here and now. So with that being said, let's take you to her LinkedIn page. As you can see, it says that she is a police detective at Baltimore Police Department. She allegedly studied at Johns Hopkins University, and you can see her profile picture up there. Presumably, she has disseminated that image of herself rather than somebody else. This is more images of her. We see at least two images of her you can find online. Again, that is the profile picture right there. I'll circle around it with my mouse, as you can see. Again, that picture is enlarged, which is good. We like to try to, well, looks like it's getting smaller right now, but that is the picture we showed you. That is on her LinkedIn page. And then this appears to be a photograph from looks like a police watchdog website. So the website is called BPD Watch, Baltimore Police Department Watch, where they have another image of Detective June S. Hall. That apparently is her picture right there. And with that being said, we have the pictures. We have the general synopsis of what's going on. Let's take you directly to the indictment, the heart of the matter, as you can see, State of Maryland versus June Hall, and starts off like any indictment would. The grand jury of the state of Maryland for the city of Baltimore, under their oath, present that the aforesaid defendant on or between November 11th, 2022 through May 3rd, 2023, in the 601 East Fayette Street, Baltimore, Maryland, did commit number one, a theft, number two, making false entries in public records, and finally, number three, misconduct in office in violation of the common law and criminal law of Maryland. Now, what are the manners and means? We're not going to read all of this because it sort of gets redundant and repetitive. But it starts off as saying on November 11th, 2022, at all relevant times, Detective June Hall, hereinafter Detective Hall, was on duty and working as a sworn law enforcement officer for the Baltimore Police Department. Again, that is for the city jurisdiction, not county. And then it goes on to list all these dates when allegedly this police officer was submitting false entries into Workday, which is an application which employers use to track the hours worked by employees. So we'll just take you to one example of this. And again, we have dates from November 11th, 2022, March 3rd, March 29th. Again, it's multiple different dates here. So we'll take you, we'll read one of them for you. On March 29th, 2023, Detective Hall left her residence at approximately 07:56 hours and arrived at headquarters at approximately 08:38 hours. According to Workday, again, which is how they track hours for the employees. According to Workday, time tracking record, Detective Hall clocked in for duty at 06:45 hours for a scheduled 0700 to 15-hour shift. Further, Detective Hall submitted and received overtime pay for the period of 06:45 to 0700 hours. Later that day, at approximately 10:25 hours, Detective Hall left headquarters in a black Ford Fusion assigned to the recruitment unit. It talks about how she was logging hours when apparently she was at the dentist, when she was off duty, things of that nature. And again, it just goes on to list multiple different days. March 29th, March 30th, March 31st, May 2nd, May 3rd. These are all dates when allegedly she is clocking in fake hours, getting more money, entering in that she has been working longer than she actually has been working. So again, it's redundant, which is the reason we don't bring it to you in full. But it goes on to list some of the police department's procedural policies. As you can see right here, time entry right here, workday entry process overview, employee responsibilities. It goes into that, and it ends this indictment with, again, reiterating the fact that she committed, the allegation is that it's a theft, presumably a theft on the taxpayer because she's logging false hours of not less, of at least $100 but less than $1,500 in value. That is the amount of theft in violation of criminal law article 7104. So it's a general theft charge. Again, I guess the victim in this case would be the taxpayer. So again, that is theft of at least $100 but less than $1,500 in value. The second count is, again, for theft. That theft is the same, of at least $100 but less than $1,500 in value, presumably theft of the taxpayer. Count 3, making false entries in public records. So that is when you're entering false times. If you're knowingly and willfully submitting a fake time, that is a public record. That is all available through Maryland Public Information Requests. And evidently there is a law that says you cannot submit a false entry into a public record. So she's charged for that as well. And then the fourth charge, is for misconduct in office, which is a charge under the common law criminal statutes. And that indictment is signed by Ivan J. Bates. And that is what you have right there, guys. So again, we'll just give you a brief synopsis of the case, and I think that WBAL does a good job in sort of summarizing it. In this case, Baltimore Police Detective June Hall was indicted on theft between $100 and $1,500, a theft scheme between $100 and $1,500, false entries in a public record, and misconduct in office. According to the indictment, Hall's supervisor questioned why she left her post for about 3.5 hours. The indictment alleges that Hall said she was at a dentist appointment for several hours and that she drove a police recruitment unit vehicle. The indictment alleges Hall didn't notify her supervisors that she needed to leave her post and failed to submit a medical leave request. The indictment alleges she also requested and received overtime pay for that day. According to the indictment, surveillance of Hall revealed she filled in hours on her timesheet that she did not work and used Baltimore Police Department vehicles for personal errands. Yes, that's true. That is exactly what that indictment alleges, that she was using that vehicle to do some personal errands. Again, it's a mostly redundant indictment, all generally alleging the same thing, and I didn't want to bore anyone with saying the same thing over and over again, essentially multiple times over. But that is the allegations. They don't seem like anything, it's not a, smoking gun murder case, but it is improper, right? And I guess props to the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office for, investing the time to want to look into situations like these. These people are put in positions of public trust, and when they violate that trust, there should be some remedy for the people to hold these people accountable for those actions. And that is, it looks like to me, the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office is really wanting to drop the hammer on police misconduct and abuse of a high-ranking position. Right? These are people who, hold lives in their hands. They really do. Because of the position that they're in. And with that, that wraps up our 3-part segment series on the 5 police officers who were indicted in 3 separate cases in Baltimore City. If you guys have any questions, if you want a copy of any of these indictments, you're more than welcome to send me an email. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you're always able to provide feedback to levitrumbull@yahoo.com anyway. But thanks for sticking around as we did that 3-part series covering the 5 officers who were indicted this past week. Again, to wrap this whole thing up, very much historically unprecedented. We don't see things like this happen very often, and I thought it was very newsworthy and noteworthy to bring to this audience, and for those who were interested in getting the finite details for each of the case. We have covered 5 indictments now. We told you we would, and that is the finish line. So with that, guys, thanks for watching. You guys can check part 1 and part 2. Link for those will be in the description. So with that, we'll catch you. Levi Trumbull reporting. Have a blessed day, and we'll catch you.